Hello, hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is your girl Mitzi, and this is Mitzi. Let's think about it. Today, we are thinking about reclaiming your identity in midlife and beyond. Isn't that a thinker? Something that we truly need to think about it. What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to our special guest here, Shamayne, who's going to really help us think about this in a whole new way? So, thank you so much, Shamayne, for coming onto my show and sharing your time and your perspective with me. It's an honor to have you here. So let's just dive right in. When you hear those words, reclaiming your identity in midlife and beyond, what does that make you think about?
Well, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. Mitzi, it's great to meet you. Um, for me, it actually occurred in midlife, and I was around 40 years old, and the question that came to my mind was, who am I?
Hmm.
I had been uh, in a place where I was fighting myself. I was unhappy. I just didn't like where I was, and I was trying to blame outside circumstances.
Hmm.
I looked to my husband, who was a kind, loving man, who we had three children together, and he was always there when we needed him. But I was trying to find something in him that wasn't right because I was so unhappy. It had to be him or my career. Was it my job? Was it this or my friends? I just didn't know what it was, but I felt like I was looking for outside circumstances. And then in a moment of awakening, revelation, whatever you want to call it, I was like, wait a minute, maybe it's not them, maybe it's you. And then I started questioning, who am I? Who am I without all these people and these things in my life? And that was what started my journey to reclaim my identity and reclaim who I was, besides the roles I played of a wife and a mother and a loyal employee and a good friend and all those other things that I played to the public and to my sphere of people in my life. I was not playing a role. I was not playing the role that I was inside. Who was I? What did I believe? What were my values? What were my likes and dislikes? I mean, simple things like,
Yeah.
what is your favorite color? What is your favorite food? I didn't think about those things. I thought about
Yeah.
everyone else. So when I started reclaiming myself and started getting to know myself better, I became a new person. And I was happier, and people noticed a change in me, and I got along with people better too. And new people came into my life because I was being more authentic.
I love that you said that because people don't realize it's a real thing. It's a real thing to lose your identity, assuming the roles assuming the roles of how society portrays that you need to be and the way you need to act and to be acceptable or to be kind or just not to be stuck into sent to some mental facility that'll do some type of lobotomy on you or something to switch you up or change your whole
Right,
identity. You know what I mean? You had to act the part, you had to play a certain role, but then you could get lost in those roles. You know what I mean? You could get
exactly.
lost in being a good wife and being a good mother and not knowing how to be a good human being or a good Shamayne. How do I be a good Shamayne? How do I be a good Mitzi? Like, how do I be good for all that I am? And that's a question that so many of us are answering. You know what I mean? That we need to answer, that we're questioning ourselves because it's like, do I like the color blue because my husband likes blue, or do I like the color blue because it makes me feel calm? You know what I mean? Like these are the questions that people really need to ask themselves because we can truly lose our identity by just trying to feel accepted. You know what I mean? And
Right.
we're always having this yearning of feeling like I need to belong and I need to feel accepted by someone or a group or have that as my identity. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What these labels that we hear, we feel like, well, I want those labels too. Like I want to be considered to be a well-rounded individual,
Right.
but you don't know how to actually be a well-rounded individual. You know what I mean? You don't know
Right.
actually how to be adaptable. You don't know how to actually how to be loving and kind and caring. So it's like you have to really start within yourself. And I think that's the thing is that people don't realize like it starts internally. Like
Right.
internally, we have to turn the tables and realize, am I design, how I was originally designed, I need to start exploring. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we start going on the
Exactly.
outside and then we're like, oh, well, I should be this or I should be that. But have you ever heard of an oak tree trying to be a palm tree? No. You know what I mean? An oak tree
Right.
is going to embrace being an oak tree. And I think that's one thing that we all need to realize is like we are whole and we are great, beautiful human beings.
Right.
So it's like for you, when did you realize that you stepping into all that you are, and how did you realize that that was who you are and not all these other extra things?
Well, when I started questioning myself, I actually started journaling and writing things down that
Mm,
I absolutely knew about myself. And part of it was what people would tell me about myself. I started thinking
mhm,
about, well, what do people say about me? And do I identify with that? Does that make sense to me? And it was simple things like, you're a good listener. And I
mhm,
thought, I am a good listener. I wrote that down. You're very objective. You hear both
mhm.
sides. I thought, I am objective. I do like to know both sides before I make a decision. And I just kept building that list daily until I was beginning to see a person come out of that, and that was
Yeah.
really who I was. And they were qualities that I could be proud of, but I also had a few qualities I was not so proud of. And that's another topic, but that resulted from my upbringing. And I
Yeah.
began to see how I was repeating behaviors and patterns that my parents had instilled in me and beyond it. Even some of their beliefs, things like that. I had to break those down and make sure. And one thing I can tell you about about beliefs and like using the colors.
Hmm.
We can change over time. We can start
Yeah.
out at one place and think, when I started doing this, purple was my favorite color. I loved all things purple. Well, not so much anymore. I like blue now. It just, as we grow and change, so will our likes and dislikes and our beliefs. But when I really knew that I was becoming more authentic from doing these exercises and really self-reflection and introspection with my core and with my soul, um,
Mhm.
eventually, I started thinking, I'm going to dress more like I like to dress. I
Yeah.
always wanted to be on the cutting edge of fashion, and I'm not like, big model material or anything like that, but I do like to keep up with the fashion trends and see what's coming.
Mhm.
And I like to have it, I always felt like I wanted to have it first, and then as people started turning to it, then I was on to the next one.
Yeah.
I started dressing more like that for work and not just like everyone else. And I noticed I started feeling more like myself. I started
Hmm.
feeling more comfortable in my own shoes it was scary at first because I didn't know how people would see this change. I even colored my hair purple at the time.
How
And
cool.
it was more of a burgundy, darker purple looking color, but people accepted that. And you know what? When you begin to become more authentic in who you truly are, people see that. And they
Hmm.
they recognize that this is her being honest about who she is. And people like to be around people who are being authentic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. They really do because you could tell like people have like radars, you know what I mean? Like something goes off in them and like no, this is who they are. Like this is not just like a phase or like a mirage where like she's acting like this for now. Like this is what she embodies. This is
Right.
her character. You know what I mean?
It
It's
feels, you can feel
yeah.
it.
Yeah, you can most definitely feel it. And I love that you decided to step into fashion and to embrace what it makes you feel because people don't realize like how you see yourself reflects how what's going on inside of you. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like it doesn't matter how your skin looks or how like how many what your eye color looks. Those little details are nonsense.
Hmm.
It's like the on the layers. You know what I mean? Those layers of that's on top of your skin that makes you feel something. You know what I mean? That makes you feel
Yeah.
covered, protected, safe, seen,
Hmm.
heard, valued. You know what I mean? Where you walk into the room, people are turning heads because they want to know what's that perfume you have on. You know what I mean?
Right.
or
Right.
what type of jacket you wearing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, she's gliding. You know what I mean? I remember one time. I walked into my office and I was working in the accounting department, and the accounting department is no fun. Nobody really sees you as just a good time. So whenever I was just like, I'm gonna change that. I'm gonna be the one that's gonna embody a new way of seeing the accounting department. So I was just like, let me just dress how I want to dress, and you know what I mean, do exactly like you said, like wear how I want. I feel comfortable and safe and seen. So I did that. Had a long trench covered
Mhm.
jacket, and because I'm a
Mhm.
short person and but I can walk fast, it was just like it look people were like, "Oh, look at her. She's gliding. I like her
Gliding.
jacket." You know what I mean? Like it was nice. So I know exactly what you
Right.
mean.
And what feels comfortable and feels good for you is going to look different on me or feel different for me.
Yeah.
But when we're both doing what feels authentic to us, others are going to notice that. And
Yes.
we may have different taste in clothing and colors and all those things, but it won't matter because what you choose is for you and what I choose is for me. And it shows. It
It
shows
does.
is exactly what makes you feel good, what makes you feel comfortable in your shoes. Um, I want to share with you at some point, if it's okay, it's how I transitioned into this place where I am today during this reflection
Please
and
do.
introspection. I I began, one of the things I did for myself in discovering who I was also to begin looking for the skills and the things that I enjoyed doing for myself. You know how we get
Mm,
into roles and things, we're doing it for everyone else.
yeah.
And I thought, well, I thought if I had the chance, I would have become a therapist or um, a counselor or something. I like helping people, and in
Yeah.
general, I like helping women.
Yeah.
And so I started volunteering um, for support groups, and I had a coach that was the facilitator, and I would be the co-facilitator. So it was really training on how to do support groups for women, and that really got me interested in becoming a coach. And as I started developing that and taking the training to become a coach, and then I realized, wait, I don't want to do just one-on-one coaching. I like that, okay, but I really want to do groups. I want to have people come together and talk about what they're going through in life.
Yeah.
What is holding them? Most people are saying, I just can't seem to move forward. Well, let's look at what might be holding you back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I began to look at all of my experiences and try to come up with this neat little package that I could talk to other women about and say, look, here's the steps I took, but I couldn't come up with the steps. I mean, I knew that I had learned how to be more independent for my and I wasn't codependent anymore. I could now depend on my own strengths and skills and my intellect and my intuition. I could piece together things that I had learned. I could speak up for myself now, where once I was too timid and afraid to talk
Yeah.
about what I felt like I needed. But I'd learned how to do that. And so anyway, I was manically writing things down and trying to figure it all out. And my husband and I said, let's just get away from work for a while, take a break. We need a vacation. And we took a road trip. I like taking road trips.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you plenty of time to think and talk and just get things out of your head. So we took a
Mm-hmm.
week and drove over to Moab, Utah, where the Red Rocks are, the Arches National Park and Canyons. It's beautiful there. It's very scenic and open and very peaceful. And then we made the trip back and we made stops along the way. But when we got back a week later, I had a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And this was the dream that pieced everything I would had was running around in my head, and it put it into this neat little package. And the package was a shoe.
Oh.
And so the dream happened where I was at work and a friend asked me to go for a walk, which we did often in real time, but this was in my dream. And I kept my walking shoes under my desk. So
Mm-hmm.
in my dream, I bent down to put on my walking shoes, and then we get up to go for the walk. And we walk through the building. We're on the third floor. We go down the elevator and out the lobby, and I see people. You know how dreams are, like, oh,
Yeah.
they're from my past. Oh, I remember. And I even told one of the women in my dream I'm going to become a coach. And my job at the time was simply, I worked for an insurance company, had nothing to do with coaching. But I told her in my dream I was going to become a coach. And as we walk out the door to go for a walk, I look down and I'm not wearing my shoes. And I'm like, in my dream, I'm staring at my socks on my feet and say, how do you forget your shoes? You walk through the building, no shoes on, you didn't even notice. You walk outside.
Yeah.
And so I apologized, went back inside to get my shoes. And as I walked back through the lobby, I woke up
Mm.
and I'm like, okay, that was a very vivid dream. And it had to have meant something. Did it
Mhm.
mean something about my next steps? You know, what I was trying to figure it out and it wasn't coming to me. But I went ahead and got up. And when I went into the bathroom, and again, I'm in front of a mirror. This is real. I'm awake now. I'm standing in front of my mirror and washing my face and getting ready for the day. And I heard the words in my head, you're going to teach women to find their shoes for their journey.
Mhm.
And it's not walking shoes, it's the internal emotional journey that we take. I began to cry because I knew that was my purpose. That's
Mhm.
what I was had been working for a decade to figure out, and it had come to me. And as I woke my husband, and he's like, "Are you okay?" And I said, "I'm fine. I just know what I'm gonna do," you know. And I told him, all of a sudden, Mitzi, the shoes broke into 8 pieces, and it was they were those steps that I had taken in my journey to become who I am today. I start with the sole. The sole of the shoe is a foundation of the shoe. It's meant for holding you up as you walk. We have a soul, and
Mhm.
in our soul, that is who we are. It is everything about us is within our soul, our core. It is the foundation of who we are. The heel showed me that sometimes the heel gets stuck, maybe in mud or whatever you're walking, but the heel represents our past and what's behind us. And those are the things that can hold us back from moving
Mhm.
forward. It's letting go of some things that we carry, like I was telling you. Earlier,
Yeah.
I mentioned the behaviors and patterns that I was repeating from my childhood. Then we had the arch of the shoe. The arch is support. The support in a shoe helps you get to where you're going without, keeping it firm and keeping you comfortable. We need a support system around us of people who are going to lift us up and inspire us and encourage us
Yeah.
and cheer for us as we take our journey to become whole and authentic. But it's also a good time to remember we may have to set some boundaries.
Mhm. Mhm.
So I talk about boundaries in that aspect. And then the toe is pointing us forward. It's always taking that next step, one step at a time, but it's our intuition that is guiding us. It is the wisdom within us that guides us to take that one step at a time. The tongue is our voice. The tongue of
Mhm.
the shoe represents our voice and being able to speak our truth. And that goes back to the aligning with our values and our beliefs. Then there's the laces of the shoe, or excuse me, the eyelets come first, and the eyelets are our eyes and our vision. And it's so important that we are able to, as we begin to know who we are, begin to look at ahead and see where do I want to go from here? Who do I want to become? What goals do I want to set for myself? Then the laces come in, and that's the strength that ties everything together. It is the bond that we have with ourselves, and then the bond that we can then make with others, the tight relationships, the good relationships. But it is our strength. It is our strength. And then the last part of the shoe that I saw was all the stitching that just went all around the shoe, tying it all together, binding it all together, and that stitching represented to me my life story.
Mhm.
And it's always there. Your past story is a part of you, but it does not have to define you. And
Mhm.
so from that point forward, the where I talk about midlife and beyond, we get to write that story for ourselves. We decide now that we've come to know who we are, then we write the rest of the story.
Yes, I love that.
And
I love
so
that.
That is shoes that fit her soul.
I love that because I see it behind you, and I'm glad you provided the explanation and where it came from because it's so beautiful. That analogy is so beautiful because if we actually look at its shoe and actually admire the how it's made, a good proper shoe, you know what I mean? Not some flip-flop, not something that's quick and easy, you know what I mean? A good, valuable, sturdy shoe. You see everything that you just described. You know what I
Yes,
mean? And it really does make us realize and reflect in our hearts, like, where are my toes pointing? You know what I mean?
right,
How tight are my laces actually, or are they loose? You know what I mean? Or do I not even have laces? You know what I mean? If do I need to get laces? You know what I mean? These are the things that people really need to think about when it comes to their lives because it's so important, you know what I mean? Our lives are so important, but we don't see the importance of it because we are so focused on everything that's outside of us. And plus, it was never really taught, you know what I mean? Nobody
right,
really taught you from generations
right,
beforehand how you should think about yourself, live about yourself, move in
right,
this world it's so differently and authentically. And people, and one thing that somebody told me once was that we're all of our purpose, every single soul that's living on this earth our all of our purpose one way or another comes into service. And if we put ourselves in position to service and serve other people will put themselves in position and serve you back. So it's
right,
never something where you're giving and giving and giving and never getting anything back because that's where a lot of fear comes in. And a lot of people that's why they won't give or they won't serve other people because they have that fear factor. Well, if I'm doing this
right,
for somebody else then nobody's going to do it for me. In reality, like no, you have to continue to do more for others and somebody will come across and do something for you in a way that you didn't even think about. You know what I
right.
mean? And it's just
Well,
like go ahead.
no, just saying that when we serve, it should be for those other people and not worried about what we'll get in return.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
as people who serve, we know the
Hmm.
reward is also in the serving.
Exactly. There is. We get to know ourselves differently. We get
Right,
to have this gratitude, you know what I mean, of knowing that I have a roof over my head, you know what I mean? I have food on my table. I mean, if you work at a soup kitchen or anything like that, I mean, that right there should give you some gratitude knowing that you have something that you're providing for somebody else that they don't have
right,
those means. You know what I mean? So it's just like sometimes we need to have the context to develop the character and a lot of the times we don't have the context because we are not seeing that the situation in our hands is the context to develop that character. You know what I mean? We
exactly.
dismiss things that, oh, that holds no value, but it holds value. You know what I mean? So
Mhm.
it goes back to earlier how you were saying you were writing your list to determine what values that you saw of yourself that met your values and didn't meet your values, and you saw certain characteristics that you realize like I didn't want to embody anymore. I didn't want to be
Right,
this person anymore. So it's like you get when you do those type of lists, it helps you really see yourself from a position where it's like you get a outsider's point of view. You know what I mean? So I
mhm,
mean and when you get that outsider's point of view, then you realize like, wow, I'm pretty vain or wow, I'm pretty selfish or you know what I mean? Those type of things. And like we need to
right,
recognize our season because not everybody's supposed to be in that selfish season in their life. And not everybody's supposed to be in that selfless season of their life. But when you recognize what season you're stepping into, then it helps
right,
you embody it. And then it helps you go back to, like you said
mhm,
earlier, set those boundaries. You know what I mean? Like when you were learning about yourself, that was okay for you to step into that selfish season, for you to step into all that you are, know yourself, love yourself, guide yourself,
right.
understand yourself, apologize to yourself, forgive yourself for the things that you didn't know and
Didn't
for the things
know.
you did know.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like all of those things are so important and so crucial. And people don't realize these seasons because they're so much in that comparison and their jealousy and that misunderstanding and those misconceptions and they can hinder themselves if they don't allow themselves to refocus and reposition their mind and their heart and and their directions of where they're looking at. You know what I mean? So it's
Right.
just like you can't if your foot is flat like this, you can't turn it around and have it look at you. You know what I mean? You can't do that. But it's just like we really have to take it into consideration because that's where it goes in the beyond. You know what I mean? Like people say midlife crisis, like that's really just your body way of saying like it's time to come back to me. You know what I mean?
Right.
When people say like, oh, I'm going through a
Exactly.
midlife crisis or a quarter life crisis, then nowadays that's a big thing. It's all about coming back to yourself and seeing where you lack that love, where you lack that forgiveness, and how to start giving yourself that grace. And I love your dream. Oh, I love people's dreams. I love your dream about the shoes and how it all tied in together because it held so much value and you got it on a point. You received that message and you went out and did exactly what you needed to do because now you're here in your 60s, embracing life, enjoying
Right.
the life that you have left and however long it may be. But at least you can enjoy it knowing that I'm living up to my authentic self, knowing that I am making a move towards something that's greater than myself, and that's to help any woman that's truly yearning for that connection, truly yearning to be seen and to be heard, because it can be so easy to be not only distracted but convince ourselves of the lies that other people have told us, that you're not good enough, you have no value, you should just go and die, you know what I mean, all these things. Like,
Oh
I'm
my.
sorry,
Yeah.
like death is easy, that's not the option, you know what I mean, that's not an
Yeah.
option, so
And then
just
on
keep
the
going.
other side, and I was going to ask this question of both of us, like, have you ever felt not enough, but at the same time, too much?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
on the same on the one hand, where you're feeling not enough and feeling put down then you've got another side that says, well, you're too much, you're too sensitive, you're too dramatic, you're too this, you're too that. Well, which one? How do I balance that? I'm not too much, and I am enough. And where do I bring that together in the center and own that and reclaim that and know that those things are gifts. What I was told when I was young, you're too sensitive. Don't cry. Don't do
Mm-hmm.
this. Don't do that. You're just too sensitive. My sensitivity was that of an empath, and I could feel all the feels around me and all those things. But I didn't know that nobody was telling me, oh, honey, you're an empath, and let's talk about those feelings. There
Yeah.
wasn't any of that. It was all just stop it because the people that were telling me that were incapable of handling those feelings.
Oh, I love that you said that because you're absolutely right. I'm an empathic person as well. So I can be in a room or I can just watch something and I can just bawl crying because I can feel the emotions. And it's a blessing and a curse depending on who's looking at it and what the situation is. And it
Yeah,
could be a double-edged sword, knowing that you're not enough, but also doing too much at the same time. But it also just shows that you're not in the right place. You know what I mean? Because
hmm,
when you're at the right place, you will feel valued, you will feel knowing, and then you also have to ask yourself, who are you doing this for? You know what I mean?
right.
Where's your direction? Are you doing it for self? Are you doing it for greed? Are you doing it for money? Are you doing it for your neighbor? Are you doing, you know what I mean? Like, who are you
Hmm.
really doing this for? Because that's one thing I had to tell myself, like, I don't care if somebody says I'm doing too much, because at the end of the day, I'm doing just the right amount because this is what God told me to do. You know what I mean? And so once I gave myself that freedom to be all that I am and not care if it's too much or too little, because there's this idea going around talking about matching energies, that you have to match energies to be in my good grace, or to be in my circle, to be in my group. Like, if you don't
Right.
match my energy, then I can't have you around me, type of deal. Or if I can't match your energy, then we're not obviously compatible. But that's not real. You know what I mean? That's some like delusion that somebody's allowing to be spread out and going viral, because it's unrealistic. You will never be able to match somebody's energy because you will either always getting pulled further out than you are supposed to be, or getting
Right.
dragged down into a state of mind that you should never be. You know what I
Right.
mean? Or that was a old version of you that you don't need to become anymore. So it's like you need
Mhm.
to know your energy and know where you stand, because that's your
Right.
character. That's where your principles are. That's where your values are. That's where your morals are. So it's like it doesn't matter if somebody flakes up on you, well, then that's on them. That's they're going on through their own situation. You can either
You
give
know,
them the grace or give them the excuse, but it still comes down to who you are. And with
right.
and people don't know that anymore. You know what I mean? They don't know their
Right.
values, so
Or
it makes it difficult.
they don't give room for that. They don't allow space for that. I
Yeah.
I like what you said about the matching. I've heard that. You're giving me concepts I don't use all the time, which I love because I love learning from younger generations because you're telling me what's going on in that realm, and I'm, up here, but I want to be able to reach other people before they get to their 50s and 60s because it's never too late. But
Hmm.
also, like we said, there's things that aren't being taught to us at a younger age that would be helpful as we grow into our adult years. Um, but what you were saying about matching energy, if I one thing I did do during that process is I knew that I needed more positive people in my life. I
Hmm.
wasn't such a positive person, and if the people on that side who were positive and had their, shit together, then then they would look at me and say, we don't match. You can't. Well, I needed that in my life. I needed because I was yearning for it. I wasn't trying to bring them down. I was
Hmm.
trying to learn from them how they were able to be so positive and happy. And
Yeah.
one of those people, I had divorced and my first husband ended up passing 4 years later, which was very tragic, and none of us expected it. But in that interim between our divorce and that time, I had met a young man, and I say young because he's 15 years younger than me, and he became my husband, and we've been together 22 years now.
Hmm.
But had he turned me away because our energies weren't matching, I probably wouldn't be where I am today because he allowed me the space to grow.
Exactly.
He
Exactly.
listened to my rants and my screen, all this because I was processing it. I was getting it out. And
Yeah.
though my energy did not match his yet, we now match.
Hmm.
We have come together, and maybe that's why we have lasted for so long. But if he had turned me away in the beginning, I guess we have to question what the purpose is for a person that we may not match. Maybe there's a reason for us to have that mismatch
Exactly. And I
in the
love that.
beginning.
I love that because it just shows like kind of like how I was ending it, that grace that he gave you the grace to get there. You know what I mean? I mean, if you're not at his level, well, no worries, you'll eventually get there. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize like, okay, well, maybe she'll get there, maybe she'll understand, maybe he will get it. You know what I mean? Like, but we are so quick to give people timelines and a deadline, and if they don't meet that deadline, then you're cut, you're gone, you're on to the next and keep it going. And it's like, we can't live on the life where everyone's disposable because not everybody should be disposable. We need to have
Right,
that discernment. And a lot of people lack discernment because they're going off of a feeling. And you can't go off your life through a feeling because then you lack discipline. You know what I mean? Then you lack that consistency and that grace and that just that characteristic trait of knowing that I'm not going to budge for anybody else. I'm going to stand where I stand,
right,
but I will give people the grace to learn, to lean, to glean, to move forward in a way that helps them see life in a different perspective. And people don't have that compassion or that understanding or acceptance. You know what I mean? And we lose that empathetic
right.
mindset because it's all about me, myself, and I, this individualistic mindset that's being pushed
Mm-hmm.
over.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the new wave that's coming in, but it's like we have to be realistic because to create humanity, to have this whole peaceful mindset, the only way to really embody that peaceful mindset is to provide grace to other people for as they learn, as they make their
Mm-hmm.
mistakes, as they develop themselves, because everybody's developing themselves. It doesn't matter how old you are. You could be
Pace.
15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80, 90, 100. You know what I mean? Like the one thing that I stand by is time cannot heal all wounds if you don't allow time to shift your perspective during that time frame
Right,
to actually heal those wounds. You know what I mean? Because
right.
that's the reason why somebody can be 80 years old and still act like he's 25 because he
Yep.
hasn't learned, matured, and evolved to a certain degree. And we need to give ourselves that grace because we need to forgive ourselves for not knowing and for making those mistakes as well. So it's just like somebody was like, "Oh, if I was you, I would have been done with them." And I'm like, "Well, that's you. That's not me. I will
Yeah.
give somebody the compassion. I will give somebody that grace." And that's where we people have to stand up to your values and actually own up to it so that that's a part of who you are. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So
Long.
oh my goodness, Shamayne. I can keep talking to you for hours on end, but time is catching up to us. Ah,
Well,
so
can I just say
yeah.
one more thing on the tail end of that is that
Yeah.
I don't want people to fear making boundaries with others. We using your intuition and using your discernment, as you were saying, to know when people are growing and they need you in their life because they are growing. And then there are those who are not trying to grow, not trying to change their mindset, just trying to just being who they've always been. And it's not healthy for your relationship. It's okay to set boundaries with those people. I had to do that with my own parents. You talk about an 80-year-old. My dad's now 90. But what I learned is if I didn't cut them out of my life, and I think it's okay when some people feel it's necessary. There are times when that is necessary. But in my situation, it wasn't completely necessary to cut him out completely. I just had to set the boundaries of what was healthy for me and what aligned with my values,
Yeah.
and not like you said, if you act out of your values and act, then you're always going to be on track. If
Yeah.
you're just being mean and spiteful, and that's not part of your value, then you're not being authentic. So
Exactly.
what I just did was just cut the time that I spent with him, and the conversations were very just surface. We don't talk about certain things, things like that. So I kept the door open for that. And my dad at 90 years old, when I went to see him one recently, as I walked in, he told me, "I love your hair." He has never said anything like that to me before. And I'm like, "Oh, wow, thank you, Dad." And I took it for what it was. And that made me feel good that after all these years, there was a part of him that still cared.
I love
So
that.
yes, I just wanted to make sure that people understand that we need to hold space for people who are trying to grow and nurture them and help them because we may be further along in our journey. But then there are those who want to be in our lives who are just pulling us down and draining our energy, and they're not looking to change um, anything in themselves.
Oh,
So
absolutely. It
there's a
really does.
distinction there. Yeah.
Yes, yes, and I love the example with your father because I am the same way. Like when it comes to my dad, it's just surface level because it's sometimes you have to put your boundaries, but it's not like you're cutting them out of your life, but you just have to just re know how you flourish. You know what I mean? You're
Right.
not gonna put a cactus in a humid area because they're not going to grow the way that they need to
Right.
grow. You're going to put the cactus in a dry, hot area and it's going to thrive in an area that it's supposed to. And that's what we kind of have to remember is like we're kind of like
Yeah.
a plant. You know what I mean? Like earlier when I said an oak tree and a palm tree, like you're not going to find an oak tree in the tropics. You know what I mean? You're not going to find that.
I love that
We will
analogy
find
with
that.
the, yeah,
Yeah.
I love the thought of being a plant. I love that because you're
You,
right.
it's
Yeah.
it's just
Where
natural. We grow,
where will
we
you
embody.
thrive, and how much, where it is that you only spend a little bit of time, but you need to get back in that other area where you have a,
Exactly. It's like if you visit any type of botanical garden, I mean, they tell you which plants thrive here versus in another type of environment. And it's like we have to recognize what environment helps us thrive. And if that means removing ourselves and literally picking ourselves and moving ourselves to a different environment, then that's
absolutely.
okay. We
Hmm.
need to be okay with making those changes. You know what I mean? So yeah. Ah,
Hmm.
Charmaine, we could keep talking. But what can be some lasting words that you can leave us off with to keep on thinking?
Oh goodness. Well, now that put that I thought I had been saying some of those all along.
I know, but we
I
gotta
know. Um,
wrap it up. So what would be some lasting words?
Well, just what you and I had spoken before the program was, do you believe you were born to be seen?
Mm,
Ask yourself that because we were all meant to be seen and we were all meant to be heard. And there are just basic human needs that we all have that are not selfish and they're not wrong, but
yeah.
we have them within us. And
Yes.
find out what those needs are that you have and
Hmm.
begin to apply them and find ways to get them into your life. You
Hmm.
can do this for yourself. Nobody has to do this for you. You can do it for yourself.
Oh, I love that. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, we really have to think about this in a whole different direction because it's our lives. We have to live with our actions. We have to live with our mistakes. We have to live with everything that comes out of us and that comes in us. So we have to be more aware of what's really going on around us, in us, and through us. Because as our words can bring life into people, it can also bring death into people as well. And it's not just people, it's ourselves. So we really have to have that consideration in all that we do. So with that being said, please go check out Shamayne. Go check out her website. Oh my goodness, she has so much great content. She has books. She has, oh my goodness,
A
so
work,
many different things. Oh
a
my
workbook.
goodness.
Yeah.
Just
My
so that
workbook is out there, my workbook, and I'll have a digital workbook coming soon.
see, just so that you guys can continue on thinking more ways for you guys to keep on thinking about this topic. And if you want to just hit Shemaine up just because you're curious to see what she may be able to help you with, or if you have a question that's lingering after this conversation, go reach out to her. What is the harm that's going to
Uh,
be done, right? I mean, what can you gain from just reaching out of your comfort zone and finding somebody that actually wants to help you, because Shemaine does want to help you. She knows this is her purpose. She knows this is her gift. And if she can die tomorrow knowing that she was able to help one extra person, that will give her peace, because at least she was doing what she was meant to do. And her
right.
life does not go in vain. Our lives does not go in vain if we just do what we're meant to do. So with that being said, always keep thinking, y'all. Bye.